Sarah's head felt like it was full of cotton, thick and heavy, as she tried to lift it from the dental chair. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Just relax. Dr. Palmer's voice drifted from somewhere above her, but it sounded warped, like he was speaking underwater. The sedation needs a few more minutes to wear off. She wanted to tell him that this wasn't normal, that she'd had dental work before and never felt like this, but her tongue wouldn't cooperate. It lay thick and useless in her mouth, and when she tried to form words, only a soft moan escaped. Through her half-closed eyes, she saw him leaning over her, his face too close, his breath hot on her cheek. His hand was on her shoulder, fingers pressing into her skin in a way that made her stomach turn. "You know, Sarah, you're really quite beautiful when you're relaxed like this," he murmured, and his hand slid down her arm. "Not so uptight. Not like when you come in here all businesslike, barely making eye contact." Panic shot through her, cutting through some of the fog. She tried to move, tried to push him away, but her limbs felt like dead weight. Her right hand twitched uselessly against the armrest. "Easy now," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "Don't fight it. I gave you a little extra something. You'll be foggy for a while, maybe an hour or two, long enough for us to get to know each other better." No, this couldn't be happening. Sarah had come in for a simple filling, just a routine appointment at 2 p.m. She'd told her sister Maggie she'd meet her for coffee at 4. Maggie would wonder where she was. Maggie would... But 2 hours was a long time. Dr. Palmer's hand was at her waist now, and she felt him start to unbuckle the paper bib from around her neck. She tried to scream, but the sound that came out was barely a whisper. "That's it," he cooed. "Just stay quiet. My last appointment canceled, and the hygienists have all gone home. It's just you and me now." Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes, hot trails down her temples. She was 47 years old, a high school English teacher, divorced for 3 years, and she was about to be assaulted in a dentist's office because she'd been stupid enough to trust that the man treating her tooth would act like a professional. Dr. Palmer had been her dentist for 6 months, ever since her old one retired. He'd always been a little too friendly, a little too interested in her personal life, but she'd chalked it up to small-town familiarity. She'd never imagined. His hand was moving higher, and she felt bile rise in her throat. Then, from the outer office, came a sound. The front door opening. Footsteps in the waiting room. Dr. Palmer froze. "What the—" He straightened up quickly, stepping away from the chair. "I locked that door." The footsteps came closer, steady and unhurried. Sarah tried to turn her head toward the sound, tried to call out, but her body still wouldn't obey. "Office is closed," Dr. Palmer called out, his voice tight with irritation and something else. Fear. He moved toward the doorway of the treatment room, positioning himself to block the view of Sarah in the chair. "I can see that." The voice that responded was deep, calm, and cold. So cold that even through her drugged haze, Sarah felt the temperature in the room drop. "And yet, here I am. Look, I don't know who you think you are, but you need to leave. Now. I'm in the middle of treating a patient." "Really?" There was something dangerous in that single word, something that made even Sarah's sluggish heart beat faster. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're in the middle of something else entirely." The man appeared in the doorway, and even with her blurred vision, Sarah could tell he was tall. Very tall. He wore a dark suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary, and his presence seemed to fill the entire room, pushing all the air out. Dr. Palmer took a step back. "I don't know what you think you saw. I saw enough." The man's voice could have cut glass. "Step away from her. This is none of your business. This is my practice, and she's my patient, and I'm going to have to ask you to. Step away from her, or I'll make you step away. Your choice." Sarah had never heard a voice like that. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried absolute authority, absolute certainty that its commands would be obeyed. Dr. Palmer must have heard it too, because he took another step back, his hands coming up in a placating gesture. "Look, there's been a misunderstanding. I was just quiet." The tall man moved into the room, circling around Dr. Palmer without taking his eyes off him. When he reached the dental chair, he looked down at Sarah, and she found herself staring up into the most intense blue eyes she'd ever seen. They were the color of a winter sky, sharp and clear, and right now they were filled with barely controlled fury. But when he spoke to her, his voice gentled. "Can you move?" She managed to shake her head slightly, and even that small movement made the room spin. His jaw tightened. He looked back at Dr. Palmer. "What did you give her?" "Just standard sedation for the procedure." "Don't lie to me." 3 words, but they carried such menace that Dr. Palmer actually flinched. "What did you give her?" It was propofol. A higher dose than usual, but she was anxious, and I thought, "You thought you'd drug her into compliance." The man's voice was perfectly level now, which somehow made it even more terrifying. "You've done this before, haven't you?" Dr. Palmer's face had gone pale. "I don't know what you're talking about. The cameras in your waiting room are quite interesting." "Motion activated. They've captured you locking the door after your last patient leaves. Captured you going back to check on sedated patients 3 times in the last 2 months alone." He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times. "I've been sitting in your waiting room for the past 20 minutes, Palmer. Watching. Waiting. My IT specialist is very good at accessing security systems." Sarah's mind was reeling. Who was this man? Why had he been watching? "I could call the police right now," the man continued. "Have you arrested. Let the justice system handle you." He paused, and his smile was the coldest thing Sarah had ever seen. "But I don't think I will. I think I'm going to handle this myself. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm making you a promise." He moved closer to Dr. Palmer, and despite the height difference, the dentist seemed to shrink. "You're going to write down everything you gave her. Dosages, times, everything. Then you're going to call an ambulance. And then you're going to pack up your things, because by tomorrow morning, your dental license will be suspended pending investigation, your practice will be shut down, and you'll be facing criminal charges from at least 4 women whose cases I'm going to personally ensure are reopened and reinvestigated." "4? What are you talking about? You can't I?" The man pulled out his phone again, scrolled through something. "Jennifer Morrison. Complained about inappropriate touching during sedation last year. You settled quietly, paid her $50,000 to sign an NDA. Emily Vasquez. Same thing 2 years ago. $30,000 that time." "Should I go on?" Dr. Palmer's face had gone from pale to gray. Who are you?" "Someone who makes problems disappear, usually for money." His eyes cut to Sarah, still helpless in the chair, and something shifted in his expression. "But sometimes I make problems disappear because they need to disappear. You're a problem, Dr. Palmer. Look, I'll do whatever you want, just call the ambulance, now." Dr. Palmer scrambled for the phone on the wall, his hands shaking as he dialed. While he stammered through the emergency call, the tall man crouched down beside Sarah's chair, bringing his face level with hers. "Stay with me," he said softly. "Help is coming. You're going to be fine." She wanted to thank him, wanted to ask him who he was and how he knew, but all she could manage was a tear sliding down her cheek. He reached out and wiped it away with his thumb, the gesture surprisingly gentle for a man who moments ago had been radiating controlled violence. "Don't cry. He didn't get what he wanted. You're safe now. I promise you that." The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. By then, the sedation had started to wear off enough that Sarah could mumble a few words, though she still couldn't walk. The paramedics loaded her onto a stretcher while Dr. Palmer stood in the corner, looking like he wanted to sink into the floor. As they wheeled her out, she saw the tall man talking to the police officers who'd arrived with the ambulance. She heard fragments of the conversation, witnessed him touching her inappropriately, heavily sedated, evidence of previous incidents. In the ambulance, As they checked her vitals and asked her questions she could barely answer, all she could think about was those cold blue eyes and the way they'd softened when he looked at her. Who was he? Sarah spent 4 hours in the hospital. They monitored her as the drugs wore off, took blood samples, did a full examination. A female police officer came and took her statement, gentle but thorough. Sarah told her everything she could remember, though the memories were hazy, dreamlike. "The man who called it in," Sarah asked when the officer was putting away her notepad. "Do you know his name?" The officer's expression shifted, became guarded. "He didn't give a statement, left before we could get his information. But he was there. He saved me. He said he had evidence. Someone sent us an anonymous file about an hour ago. Security footage, financial records showing settlement payments, contact information for 3 other women who had complaints about Dr. Palmer. It's comprehensive, very professionally compiled." The officer paused. "Look, Ms. Lawson, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but the detectives think your mystery man might be connected to the Volkov organization." Sarah's mouth went dry. "The what?" The officer hesitated. "There are some families in this city that operate outside the law. Russian organized crime. The Volkovs are one of the biggest. This kind of thing, gathering information, applying pressure, making problems go away. It's what they do." "But he helped me. Why would the Mafia help me?" The officer shrugged. "Maybe you know someone who knows someone. Maybe they had their own reasons for wanting Palmer gone. Or maybe," she looked uncomfortable, "sometimes these organizations have strange codes. They might break 100 laws, but they draw the line at certain things. Hurting women, especially in that way, some of them take it personally." After the officer left, Sarah lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. The Mafia. Her mysterious rescuer was in the Mafia. She should be terrified. She should be grateful he was gone, and hope she never saw him again. Instead, all she could think about was the way his voice had gentled when he spoke to her, the way he'd wiped away her tear, the fury in his eyes when he looked at what Palmer had been doing. Her sister Maggie arrived at 6, frantic with worry. "I went to the coffee shop and you never showed up, and I called and called." "I'm okay," Sarah said, taking her hand. "I'm okay now." She told Maggie everything. Her sister's face went through a dozen expressions: shock, horror, fury, and then something else when Sarah got to the part about the tall stranger. "Wait," Maggie said. "Describe him again." "Tall, very tall. Dark hair, blue eyes. Expensive suit. He said his name was... Actually, he never said his name." Maggie pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned it toward Sarah. "Is this him?" The photo showed a man at some kind of formal event, standing slightly apart from the crowd. Dark suit, dark hair, sharp features, and those eyes. "Yes," Sarah breathed. "That's him. How did you..." "His name is Alexei Volkov. He's the head of the Volkov family." Maggie's voice was strange. "Sarah, he's like seriously dangerous. I mean, they say he's never been convicted of anything. But everyone knows. He saved me, Maggie. I know. I'm not saying... God, I'm so glad he was there. I just mean that you should probably stay away from him now. Men like that, they're not good people, Sarah, even if they occasionally do good things." Sarah knew her sister was right. Of course she was right. So why couldn't she stop thinking about him? They let her go home that evening. Maggie insisted on staying over, fussing around Sarah's small apartment like a worried hen. Sarah let her, grateful for the distraction. But when she finally went to bed, she lay awake for hours, staring at her bedroom ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Dr. Palmer's face looming over her, felt the helplessness of her body refusing to obey. And then she saw those blue eyes, heard that cold voice promising her she was safe. She finally fell asleep around 3 a.m. and woke at 7 to her phone ringing. An unknown number. "Hello? Ms. Lawson, this is Detective Brennan. I'm calling about the Palmer case. We picked him up last night for questioning, and he's being held pending formal charges. The DA is confident we have enough for multiple counts of sexual assault. The other victims have agreed to testify. Relief flooded through her. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me. Thank whoever compiled that evidence file. It's the most thorough investigation packet I've seen in 20 years, and I didn't put it together. A pause. You don't happen to know who did, do you? No, Sarah said. I don't. It wasn't quite a lie. She knew his name now, but she didn't really know him. Well, whoever it was, they did my job for me. Palmer's done. His license is suspended, his practice is closed, and he's looking at serious prison time. Another pause. How are you doing? I'm okay. Shaken up, but okay. If you need to talk to someone, we have victim services. I'll be fine, thank you, Detective. After she hung up, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, her phone still in her hand. She opened her browser and typed in Alexei Volkov. The results were interesting. Photos of him at charity galas, always impeccably dressed, always slightly apart from the crowd. Articles about his family's legitimate businesses, real estate, restaurants, import-export. And then, buried deeper, articles with words like alleged, suspected, rumored connections. Nothing concrete, nothing proven. But the implication was clear. Alexei Volkov was dangerous. Sarah closed her phone and got ready for work. She'd already called her principal last night, explained she'd need a few days, but she didn't want to sit at home thinking, didn't want to be alone with her thoughts. But when she got to the school, she couldn't focus. Her students noticed. She saw them exchanging worried glances when she lost her train of thought mid-lecture. During her planning period, she sat at her desk, staring at her computer screen without seeing it. Why had he been there? That was the question that kept circling through her mind. The detective said the evidence file was too thorough, too professional to have been compiled in one afternoon, which meant Alexei Volkov had been investigating Dr. Palmer before yesterday. But why? Ms. Lawson? One of her teaching assistants, Jenny, poked her head into the classroom. There's someone here to see you, in the office. Sarah's heart jumped. Who? He didn't say, just asked for you specifically. Jenny's eyes were wide. He's really intense. Sarah stood up so fast her chair rolled backward and hit the wall. She followed Jenny down the hallway to the main office, her heart hammering. He was standing by the trophy case, studying a photo of the state championship soccer team from 2019. In the fluorescent lights of the school office, he looked even more out of place than he had in the dental office. His suit probably cost more than all the cars in the staff parking lot combined. Mr. Volkov, she said, and his head turned toward her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Sarah was acutely aware of the secretary pretending not to stare, of Jenny hovering uncertainly nearby. Ms. Lawson. His voice was just as she remembered, deep and controlled. I wanted to check on you, make sure you were recovering well. I'm fine, thanks to you. She hesitated, then added, we should probably talk somewhere more private. She led him outside to the small courtyard behind the main building where students sometimes ate lunch. It was empty now, second period, everyone in class. How did you know? She asked as soon as they were alone. About Dr. Palmer? I've been investigating him for 3 weeks, Alexei said. One of his victims was the daughter of someone who works for me. She didn't want to go to the police, didn't think they'd believe her, and Palmer had made her sign an NDA, but she told her father. He came to me. So you started digging. I have resources the police don't. It quickly became clear Palmer had done this before, many times. I was building a case, gathering evidence. His jaw tightened. I had someone watching him. When you went in for your appointment, when the last hygienist left and he locked the front door but your car was still in the lot, I knew what was about to happen. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself. You cut it very close. I know, I'm sorry for that. If I'd gone in any earlier, I wouldn't have had grounds for intervention. He hadn't done anything illegal yet. But if I'd waited any longer... He stopped, and something dark crossed his face. I'm sorry. I should have found another way. You saved me, Sarah said quietly. I was helpless. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything. And he was... She had to stop, had to take a breath. You stopped him. Whatever else you are, whatever else you do, you stopped him from hurting me. Whatever else I am, Alexei repeated softly. So, you know. I looked you up, seemed like the smart thing to do. And what did you find? Nothing concrete, lots of allegations, lots of rumors, but nothing proven. She met his eyes. You've never been convicted of anything. No, he agreed, I haven't. But you're still dangerous? Yes. He said it simply, like he was commenting on the weather. I'm not a good man, Sarah. I do things that would horrify you if you knew the details. I break laws. I hurt people who threaten my family or my business. I exist in a world where violence is currency and loyalty is everything. She should run, should thank him politely and go back inside and never think about him again. Why did you come here? She asked instead. To see if you were all right. You could have called or texted. You didn't have to come to my workplace. Something flickered in his eyes. You're right. I didn't have to. He took a step closer, and Sarah's breath caught. But I wanted to. I wanted to see you. Needed to see you. From the moment I saw you in that chair, so vulnerable, so helpless, fighting so hard despite the drugs. He stopped, shook his head. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. Sarah's voice caught. I've been thinking about you too. You shouldn't. You should forget you ever met me. Go back to your life, your teaching, your safe, normal world. He raised his hand as if to touch her face, then let it drop. You should run from me, Sarah. Is that what you want? For me to run? What I want and what's good for you are two very different things. The school bell rang, sharp and loud, shattering the moment. Students began pouring out of classrooms, heading to their next period. A group of girls saw them and started whispering excitedly. I have to go, Sarah said. I have a class. Of course. Alexei stepped back, putting proper distance between them. Professional distance. But his eyes never left her face. If you need anything. If you feel unsafe. If Palmer's lawyer contacts you. If anything happens, call me. He handed her a card. Heavy stock, embossed letters. Just a name and a phone number. I don't need protection, Sarah said, but she took the card anyway. Everyone needs protection sometimes. Even English teachers who think they can handle everything themselves. The corner of his mouth lifted, almost a smile. Be safe, Sarah. He walked away, weaving through the stream of students without touching any of them, and Sarah stood holding his card, watching him go. She was in so much trouble. A week passed. Dr. Palmer was formally charged with 4 counts of sexual assault. The news ran stories about the dentist of horrors and the women who'd finally gotten justice. Sarah gave a statement to the press, her face blurred, her voice disguised. She wanted other women to know they weren't alone, that they could come forward. 3 more victims reached out to the police after the story aired. Sarah went back to her life, taught her classes, graded papers, had coffee with Maggie, but Alexei's card stayed in her wallet, and she found herself thinking about him at odd moments, wondering what he was doing, wondering if he was thinking about her. She was being ridiculous. He'd saved her, checked on her, and that was that. He'd moved on. She should too. Then, on Friday evening, her doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw him. Alexei Volkov, in dark jeans and a black sweater instead of a suit, somehow looking even more dangerous in casual clothes. Sarah opened the door. Hi. I'm sorry for showing up unannounced, he said, but I needed to tell you something, and I couldn't do it over the phone. Her heart was racing. Okay. Palmer made bail this afternoon. Cold flooded through her. What? How? The charges. His family has money. Old money. they posted $1 million bond. He's out, with an ankle monitor and orders to stay away from all his victims, but he's out. Alexei's voice was tight. I wanted you to know. I have someone watching him, and if he comes anywhere near you... Why would he come near me? He'd be violating his bail conditions. Because you're the reason he's facing charges. Because you didn't settle quietly like the others. Because men like him, when they're cornered, they lash out. He stepped closer, and Sarah could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to keep you safe. You're not my bodyguard, Alexei. No, but I could be. He held her gaze. Let me protect you. Until the trial. Until he's in prison where he belongs. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. His voice softened. Please, Sarah. Let me do this. She should say no. Should tell him she'd be fine, that she'd call the police if Palmer showed up, that she didn't need a mafia boss watching over her. Okay, she heard herself say instead. Okay. Having Alexei Volkov in her life was strange. He didn't hover, didn't follow her around or show up at her classroom every day, but she was always aware of his presence. She'd see his car parked down the street when she left for work in the morning, would spot one of his men, because yes, she'd learned to recognize them, the subtle earpieces, the way they watched everyone. In the grocery store, maintaining a discreet distance. It should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt safe. 2 weeks after Palmer made bail, Sarah came home from a late parent-teacher conference to find Alexei sitting on her front steps. What happened? She asked, hurrying up the walkway. Is something wrong? Palmer's lawyer filed a motion to get the case dismissed, claiming the evidence was obtained illegally. Alexei stood, and even in the porch light she could see the tension in his jaw. It won't work. The police have enough independent corroboration, but it means the trial might be delayed. How delayed? Months, maybe a year. Sarah sank down onto the step, suddenly exhausted. A year of this. A year of looking over my shoulder. Or... Alexei sat beside her, careful to maintain a few inches of space between them. You could let Palmer know that pursuing this case would be unwise. She turned to look at him. What does that mean? It means I could have a conversation with him. Make it clear that dropping the charges and pleading guilty would be in his best interest. You mean threaten him? I mean explain his options to him, clearly. Sarah should be horrified, should tell him absolutely not. But she was so tired. Tired of being afraid, tired of reliving that day every time she closed her eyes. What would you do to him? She asked quietly. Nothing. If he's smart, if he pleads guilty, accepts his sentence, goes to prison quietly, then I'd do nothing at all. Alexei paused. But if he keeps fighting, keeps dragging you and the other victims through this, then I'd make sure he understood that prison is the safest place for him. That's wrong? Illegal? Both? He turned to face her fully. Yes, it is. But it would work, Sarah. He'd plead guilty. You'd be free. The other women would be free. Justice would be served, just faster. She knew she should say no, should insist on letting the justice system work. Do it, she said instead. Something shifted in Alexei's expression. Are you sure? No, but I'm tired of being his victim. I want this over. She met his eyes. Do whatever you need to do. I don't want the details. I don't want to know. Just make it stop. It stops tonight, he promised. By tomorrow morning, this will be over. He was right. The next day, Palmer's lawyer called the DA and said his client wanted to change his plea to guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Palmer got 15 years. Sarah found out from Detective Brennan, who called to tell her she wouldn't need to testify after all. I don't know what happened, the detective said, sounding bemused. But Palmer's lawyer said his client had a change of heart, and wanted to take responsibility for his actions. Between you and me, I think someone had a conversation with him, the kind of conversation that changes a man's perspective. Sometimes people do the right thing, Sarah said. Sometimes, though usually not scumbags like Palmer. A pause. You know anyone who might have encouraged this change of heart? No, Sarah lied, but I'm grateful to whoever did. After she hung up, Sarah sat at her kitchen table for a long time, staring at Alexei's card. Then she picked up her phone and called him. It's done, he said as soon as he answered. No hello, no greeting. He pled guilty. You're safe now. Thank you. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You saved me. Twice now. Sarah took a breath. I'd like to take you to dinner, to say thank you properly. The silence on the other end stretched so long she thought he might have hung up. Sarah, he finally said, and her name in his voice made her shiver. If we have dinner together, if I spend an evening with you, I won't want to walk away afterward. I'll want more. I'll want everything. Maybe I want that too. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what being with me would mean. Then tell me. Have dinner with me and tell me. She was gripping the phone so hard her fingers ached. Let me make my own choice about this, Alexei. About you. Another long silence. Then, tomorrow night, I'll pick you up at 7. Sarah changed clothes 4 times before settling on a dark blue dress that was nice without being too formal. She felt like a teenager getting ready for prom, her stomach fluttering with nerves and anticipation. Alexei arrived exactly at 7, in a black town car with tinted windows. He got out and came to her door, and when she opened it, his expression made her breath catch. You look beautiful, he said simply. Thank you. So do you, she blushed. I mean, you look nice, handsome, not beautiful. Although you are, I'm going to stop talking now. His lips twitched. Please don't. I find your nervousness charming. The restaurant he took her to was quiet and elegant, the kind of place where the prices weren't printed on the menu. But Sarah barely noticed the food. She was too focused on the man across from her, the way the candlelight caught in his eyes, the way his voice rumbled through her when he spoke. They talked about everything. Her teaching, her students, her divorce 5 years ago, his family, his businesses, the legitimate ones at least. He was careful about what he shared, she could tell, editing out the dangerous parts. But even the edited version was fascinating. How did you end up, she gestured vaguely, in this world? I was born into it. My father was head of the family before me. I grew up knowing what I'd become. He took a sip of his wine. I was 25 when he died. Heart attack, sudden. I wasn't ready, but I didn't have a choice. When you're born into this life, you inherit not just power, but responsibility. Debts, alliances, enemies. Do you ever wish you could leave? Every day. He said it without hesitation. But wishing doesn't change reality. I am what I am, Sarah. I've done things, terrible things. I've hurt people. I've ordered people hurt. I've broken laws and destroyed lives when I had to. I'm telling you this because you need to understand. I'm not a hero. I'm not a good man who occasionally does bad things. I'm a bad man who occasionally does good things. You saved me. That doesn't erase everything else. No, Sarah agreed, but it matters. It matters to me. She reached across the table, laid her hand over his. I'm not naive, Alexei. I know what you are, but I also know that when I was helpless, when I was in danger, you were the one who came. You were the one who protected me. You made sure Palmer could never hurt anyone again. That's not nothing. His hand turned under hers, his fingers threading through hers. If we do this, if we're together, your life will change. You'll be associated with me, with my family. There will be danger. There will be people who might try to use you to get to me. I know. You'll never be completely safe, not as long as you're with me. I wasn't safe with Dr. Palmer either. I wasn't safe in my ordinary, normal life. She squeezed his hand. At least with you, I know the danger. I can see it coming. Sarah, I'm making my choice, Alexei. I'm choosing you. Now the question is, are you choosing me? He stood abruptly, pulling her up with him. For a moment she thought he was going to walk away, and her heart sank. Then he cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. It was like lightning, like fire. His mouth was hot and demanding, and Sarah found herself pressing closer, her hands fisting in his shirt, wanting more, needing more. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. I've wanted to do that since the moment I saw you, he said roughly. Even in that dental chair, so helpless, so vulnerable, you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And when you looked at me, even through the drugs, even terrified, you were brave. So damn brave. Take me home, Sarah whispered. Take me home with you. They barely made it through his front door before they were kissing again, desperate and hungry. His penthouse was huge, all glass and chrome, but Sarah barely registered any of it. She was too focused on the man pinning her against the wall, on the way his hands felt on her body, on the taste of him. They made it to the bedroom eventually. Later, lying tangled in his sheets, Sarah traced the scars on his chest, marks of a violent life, while Alexei ran his fingers through her hair. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. About that day, about why I was really there. Sarah propped herself up on one elbow. Okay. I told you I was investigating Palmer. That was true, but I'd also been watching you specifically for a week before your appointment. Her stomach flipped. Watching me? Why? Because I couldn't stop thinking about you. I'd seen you once, briefly, at a charity event at the hospital where I'm on the board. You were there with your sister. She works in administration, I think. You smiled at something she said and He stopped, shook his head. I asked someone who you were, found out your name, and then I couldn't let it go. I started looking into your life, not because I had a reason, just because I wanted to know you. Sarah didn't know whether to be flattered or freaked out. That's kind of stalkerish, Alexei. I know, and I'm not proud of it. But that's how I knew you had an appointment with Palmer. That's how I knew to be watching. He met her eyes. If I hadn't been obsessed with you, if I hadn't been following you, you wouldn't have been there to save me, Sarah finished. So your stalking actually saved my life. I suppose you could look at it that way. She should be upset, should be disturbed that he'd been watching her. But all she felt was a strange sort of gratitude. Promise me something. Anything. No more watching from a distance. If you want to know something about me, ask. If you want to see me, show up. No more hiding. I promise. He pulled her down for a kiss. I'm done hiding. You're mine now, Sarah, and I'm yours. Completely. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. Being with Alexei meant entering his world, meeting his family, learning the unspoken rules of a life she'd never imagined. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. His younger brother, Roman, was suspicious at first. She's a civilian, he told Alexei when he thought Sarah couldn't hear. She doesn't understand our world. She could be a liability. But over time, even Roman warmed to her. She tutored his daughter in English, helped her prepare for her college entrance exams, and Roman saw that Sarah wasn't trying to change Alexei or pull him away from his responsibilities. She was just trying to love him. There were hard moments. Times when Alexei came home late, his knuckles bruised, his eyes dark with things he wouldn't talk about. Times when Sarah had to reconcile the man she loved with the man who did terrible things in the shadows. But there were beautiful moments too. Alexei showing up at her classroom with coffee on a cold morning, taking her to his family's house for Sunday dinner, his mother fussing over her in rapid Russian. The way he held her at night, like she was something precious and breakable. 6 months and 3 days after their first dinner, Alexei took Sarah back to that same restaurant. She knew something was different the moment they sat down. He was nervous, drumming his fingers on the table, not quite meeting her eyes. "Alexei, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." He reached across the table, took her hand. "I've been thinking about something. About us. About the future." Sarah's heart started to race. "I'm not good at this," he continued. "I'm not good at words or feelings or any of the things I should probably say right now, but I know one thing with absolute certainty." He stood, came around to her side of the table, and got down on one knee. The entire restaurant went quiet. "Sarah Lawson, you walked into my life at a moment when you needed saving, but somehow, you were the one who saved me. You made me want to be better, made me believe I could be more than what I was born into. You're brave and kind and beautiful, and I love you more than I thought I could love anything." He pulled out a ring box, opened it. Inside was a diamond that caught the light and scattered it like stars. "Will you marry me?" Sarah couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. All she could do was nod frantically until she found her voice. "Yes, yes, yes, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, stood, pulled her into his arms and kissed her while the entire restaurant applauded. "I'm never letting you go," he murmured against her lips. "You know that, right? You're stuck with me now." "Good," Sarah said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Because I'm never letting you go either." They were married 3 months later, in a small ceremony at the Russian Orthodox Church Alexei's family had attended for generations. Sarah wore white, Alexei wore black. Her sister Maggie was her maid of honor, still slightly intimidated by the whole situation, but happy for her. Roman was Alexei's best man, and he actually smiled when he saw how Alexei looked at Sarah during the vows. At the reception, Alexei pulled Sarah onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. As they swayed together, he leaned down and whispered in her ear, "Do you remember the first thing I said to you? In the dental office? You asked if I could move." "No, before that, when Palmer was blocking the door." Alexei spun her gently. "I said, step away from her. That was the moment I knew. The moment I saw you helpless in that chair and felt something in me break and reform into something new. You were mine to protect. Mine to keep safe. Mine." "Yours," Sarah agreed, reaching up to cup his face. "And you're mine. My husband. My protector. My love." "Always," Alexei promised, and kissed her there in front of everyone, his family, her friends. The strange intersection of two worlds that should never have collided, but somehow fit together perfectly. Later, much later, when the party was winding down and they were getting ready to leave for their honeymoon, Sarah found herself back at their table, looking out at all the people who'd come to celebrate with them. She thought about that day in the dental office, about how terrified she'd been, how helpless. She thought about Alexei appearing like an avenging angel, cold and furious, and determined to save her. And she thought about everything that had come after, the fear, the uncertainty, the slow building of trust and understanding, and eventually love. "Ready to go?" Alexei appeared beside her, his hand warm on the small of her back. Sarah turned to him, this dangerous, complicated, beautiful man who'd saved her life and then given her a new one. "Ready," she said. And she was. Ready for whatever came next, as long as they faced it together. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world is also the safest place to be, in the arms of someone who would burn down the world to keep you safe. Their honeymoon in Italy was like a dream. 2 weeks of stolen moments in Venice and the Amalfi Coast, where they could pretend to be normal people. Just a couple in love, eating gelato, and wandering through ancient streets. Alexei's phone stayed mostly silent, his lieutenants under strict orders not to call unless the world was ending. But all dreams have to end eventually. They'd been back in the city for exactly 4 days when Sarah's principal called her into the office. She'd been expecting to discuss her upcoming curriculum plans for the fall semester, Instead, she found Principal Martinez sitting behind her desk with two people Sarah didn't recognize, a man and a woman, both in dark suits. "Ms. Lawson, I'm sorry, Mrs. Volkov now. These are Agents Chen and Morrison from the FBI," Martinez said, and her face was full of apology and worry. Sarah's blood went cold. "FBI? We'd like to ask you a few questions," Agent Morrison said. She was tall, blonde, mid-40s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "About your husband." "I don't think I should talk to you without a lawyer present," Sarah said immediately. Alexei had drilled this into her. If anyone official ever approached her, she was to say nothing without their lawyer. "You're not under investigation, Mrs. Volkov," Agent Chen said. He was younger, maybe early 30s, with an earnest face that was probably meant to be disarming. "We just want to talk." "Then I definitely need a lawyer." Sarah pulled out her phone. "I'm calling my husband." "We'd prefer you didn't do that," Morrison said, and there was steel under her pleasant tone. "I don't care what you'd prefer. I'm calling him." She dialed. Alexei answered on the first ring. "Sarah? What's wrong?" "I'm in Principal Martinez's office. There are 2 FBI agents here. They want to ask me questions about you." The silence on the other end lasted maybe 2 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. When Alexei spoke again, his voice was the cold, controlled one she'd heard him use with enemies. "Don't say anything, not one word. I'm sending Victor. He'll be there in 10 minutes. If they try to take you anywhere before he arrives, tell them they need to arrest you or let you go." "Okay." "Sarah," his voice softened slightly. "It's going to be fine, I promise. Just wait for Victor." She hung up and looked at the agents. "My lawyer will be here in 10 minutes. Until then, I'm not answering any questions." Morrison's expression tightened. "Mrs. Volkov, we're trying to help you. Your husband is dangerous. He's involved in organized crime, racketeering, money laundering. Without my lawyer, I have nothing to say. There are allegations that he's ordered multiple homicides. Nothing to say. He's using you," Chen said, leaning forward. "You're his way of looking legitimate. A respectable wife, a teacher, someone who makes him look like a regular businessman instead of what he really is." That stung, because there'd been moments, early on, when Sarah had worried about the same thing. But she knew better now. She'd seen the way Alexei looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. The way he held her at night. The way he'd rearranged his entire world to make space for her in it. 10 minutes, she repeated. "Or arrest me. Those are your options." Victor arrived in 8 minutes. He was Alexei's personal attorney, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s who'd been with the family for decades. He swept into the office like a storm, immediately putting himself between Sarah and the agents. "My client has nothing to say to you," he announced. "If you have questions for Mr. Volkov, you can direct them to me. Mrs. Volkov is a high school English teacher with no involvement in her husband's business affairs." "We have evidence that suggests otherwise," Morrison said. "Then present it to a grand jury and get an indictment. Until then, this conversation is over." Victor took Sarah's arm. "Come on, we're leaving." Sarah stood, but her legs felt shaky. Principal Martinez looked miserable. "Sarah, I'm sorry. They showed up with a warrant to question you on school grounds. I didn't know what to do." "It's okay," Sarah managed. "It's not your fault." In the car, with Victor driving and one of Alexei's security team in the passenger seat, Sarah finally let herself shake. What's happening? Why now? "The FBI has been building a case against the family for years," Victor said, his eyes on the road. "They've never been able to make anything stick, but they keep trying. Going after you, that's a new tactic. They think maybe you'll give them something they can use." "But I don't know anything. Alexei never talks to me about business. Doesn't matter, they'll twist whatever you say. Try to make it sound incriminating." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You did the right thing, refusing to talk. But Sarah, this is going to get worse before it gets better." He was right. The agents started showing up everywhere. Outside the school, making sure Sarah saw them watching. At the grocery store, casually appearing in the same aisle. They sent letters to her home, to her sister's house, to her parents in Florida, asking people to encourage Sarah to cooperate with their investigation. Alexei was furious, but there was nothing he could do. The surveillance was legal. The letters were legal. The FBI was within their rights to investigate organized crime, and they were using every legal tool they had to pressure Sarah into becoming an informant. "I could make them go away," Alexei said one night, pacing their bedroom like a caged animal. "I could make this stop." "No." Sarah caught his arm, made him look at her. "Whatever you're thinking, no. That's exactly what they want, for you to do something illegal that they can use against you." "So, I'm supposed to just watch them harass my wife?" "Yes, because I can handle it." She pulled him down to sit beside her on the bed. "They can follow me around all they want. They can send letters. They can try to intimidate me. But I'm not going to break, Alexei. I'm not going to give them anything, because there's nothing to give. I don't know anything about your business, and I don't want to know. We've been careful about that. They could arrest you on some trumped-up charge, hold you for questioning. Then you'll bail me out, and Victor will fight it." She cupped his face, made him focus on her. "I knew what I was signing up for when I married you. I knew there would be risks. This is one of them. We'll get through it." But 3 days later, when Sarah came home from work, she found Agent Morrison sitting on her front step. Sarah's heart jumped into her throat. "You can't be here. This is private property." "I'm not here officially," Morrison said, standing up. "I'm here as someone who's been doing this job for 20 years and has seen how this story ends. Can I talk to you, just for 5 minutes? No recording, no notes, nothing official?" Sarah should have said no, should have gone inside and called Victor. But something in Morrison's face stopped her, something tired and sad and almost pleading. "5 minutes," Sarah said. "Out here, in public view." Morrison nodded. "Your husband is going down, Sarah. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but eventually we're going to get him. We have witnesses willing to testify. We have financial records. We have surveillance. It's just a matter of time. If you say so. When it happens, you'll be collateral damage, the wife of a convicted criminal. You'll lose your job. No school will want the controversy. You'll lose your friends, your reputation, your life. Everything you've built will be destroyed just because you married the wrong man." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "Is that your pitch? Scare me into betraying my husband?" "I'm trying to save you," Morrison said, and she actually sounded sincere. "I've seen this before. Good women who fall for bad men, who think love will be enough. It never is. The men go to prison, and the women are left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. You seem smart, Sarah. You seem like you have a good heart. Don't let Alexei Volkov destroy you. He's not destroying me. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. Is he? Or is he just the most exciting thing? There's a difference." Morrison pulled out a card, pressed it into Sarah's hand. "When you're ready to save yourself, call me. We can protect you. Witness protection, new identity, fresh start. You don't have to go down with him." She walked away, leaving Sarah standing on her front lawn, holding the card like it was a snake. Inside, Sarah tore the card into tiny pieces and threw them in the trash. Then she called Alexei. "They're getting desperate," he said when she told him what had happened. "That's good. It means they don't have what they need." "Alexei, is it true? Are they going to arrest you eventually?" The pause on the other end told her everything. "I don't know," he finally admitted. "They've been trying for years. They've arrested my father, my uncle, my brother. Some of those cases stuck, some didn't. I've been more careful than they were, but..." He stopped. "Yes. Eventually they might find something, or fabricate something, or convince a witness to lie. What do? We fight. Victor is already working on countersuing for harassment. We document every time they approach you, every letter, every instance of surveillance. We build a case that they're targeting you specifically to get to me, which is arguably witness tampering. He took a breath. But Sarah, if you want out, if this is too much— Don't, she interrupted. Don't even finish that sentence. I'm not leaving you. I don't care what the FBI does. I don't care if they follow me around for the rest of my life. You're my husband. We're in this together. I love you, he said roughly. God, I love you. I love you too. Come home. I need you here. He was home within the hour, walking through the door with such tension in his shoulders that Sarah could see it from across the room. She went to him, wrapped her arms around him, and felt him sag against her. I'm sorry, he murmured into her hair. I'm so sorry. You deserve better than this. I deserve you. That's all I want. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other while the evening light faded outside, but the next morning brought a new crisis. Sarah was in her second period class, discussing To Kill a Mockingbird with her juniors, when Principal Martinez appeared in the doorway, looking pale. Sarah, I need to see you. Now. Your students can work independently. Sarah's stomach dropped. She gave her class an assignment and followed Martinez into the hallway. What's wrong? The school board had an emergency meeting last night. There's pressure from several parents about your connection to Alexei Volkov, about having a teacher married to someone allegedly involved in organized crime. Martinez looked miserable. They want you to take a leave of absence. Paid for now, but they're forcing me out. They're asking you to step aside while they evaluate the situation. Sarah, I fought for you. I told them you're one of our best teachers, that your personal life has never affected your professional performance. But several board members are worried about the publicity, about parents pulling their kids from your classes. Sarah felt like she'd been punched. Teaching was hers. It was the one part of her life that had nothing to do with Alexei, the part that was just Sarah, just who she'd always been. And now they were taking it away. How long? She managed. They didn't say. Indefinitely, pending review. Sarah went back to her classroom, collected her things while her students watched with wide eyes, and started whispering. She walked out of the school where she'd taught for 12 years, where she'd shaped hundreds of young minds, where she'd felt safe and valued and important. Agents Morrison and Chen were waiting in the parking lot. Something in Sarah snapped. She marched right up to them, ignoring Victor's voice in her head, telling her to stay silent. Are you happy? Did you do this? Did you call the school board? We didn't need to, Morrison said. One of the parents is a former prosecutor. He recognized your husband's name, looked into his background, and raised concerns. We had nothing to do with it. But you knew it would happen. You knew that associating with me would make me a target. We told you the consequences, Chen said. We warned you. Sarah wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to do something violent and dramatic. Instead, she got in her car and drove home, her hands shaking on the wheel. Alexei was already there when she arrived, pacing the living room with his phone pressed to his ear. He hung up the moment he saw her face. I heard. Sarah. They took my job. Her voice broke. They took the one thing that was mine, the one thing that made me who I am. And they took it. No. He crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. They didn't take who you are. You're still you. You're still the woman who stands in front of teenagers every day and makes them care about literature. You're still the woman who spent 3 hours last week helping that kid with his college essay. None of that changes because of what some cowardly school board did. But I can't do it anymore. I can't teach. I can't. The tears came then, hot and angry and full of grief. Alexei held her while she cried, his hand rubbing slow circles on her back. When she finally quieted, he said, I can fix this. Sarah pulled back. How? I know people on the school board. I can apply pressure, make phone calls. By tomorrow you could have your job back. No. Sarah wiped her eyes. No. Because then everyone would know you did it. It would prove exactly what they're afraid of, that I'm using my connection to you to get special treatment. It would make everything worse. Then what do you want me to do? Because I can't just stand here and watch you hurt like this. Sarah took a shaky breath. I want you to help me find a new job. At a different school, maybe private, where my last name won't matter as much. Or I could tutor privately. Or, she stopped, an idea forming. Or I could start something new. A literacy program for adults. Something that's mine, that I build from scratch, that has nothing to do with anyone else. You could do that, Alexei said slowly. I could fund it. We could set up a nonprofit, get space, hire other teachers. I'd be using your money. It would be our money. We're married, Sarah. What's mine is yours. He cupped her face, made her look at him. Let me do this. Let me help you build something new. Something better than what they took from you. Sarah thought about it. Thought about walking into her old classroom, knowing that some parents didn't want her teaching their children. Knowing that her name would always be a controversy, a liability. Or she could take this terrible thing and transform it into something good. Okay, she said. Okay, let's do it. Over the next 3 months, Sarah threw herself into building the literacy center. She found a space in a neighborhood that desperately needed services like this. Hired 3 other teachers, all excellent, all passionate. Set up a curriculum that was flexible and responsive to adult learners' needs. Alexei kept his promise. He funded everything but stayed in the background, letting Sarah be the face and the voice of the organization. When the center opened, they had 50 students signed up. By the end of the first month, they had a waiting list. The local news covered it. Former teacher builds literacy center for underserved communities. They interviewed Sarah, and she talked about the importance of education, about giving adults a second chance to learn skills they'd missed the first time around. The FBI agents watched from across the street during the interview. Sarah saw them and smiled. She was building something good, something that helped people, and there was nothing they could do about it. That night, lying in bed with Alexei, Sarah said, "They tried to break me. The FBI, the school board, all of it. They tried to make me regret choosing you." "And do you?" His voice was carefully neutral. "Regret it?" "Not for a second." She rolled over to face him. "Yes, I lost my job. Yes, there are agents following me around. Yes, my life is more complicated and sometimes scary. But I also have you. I have this center that's helping people. I have a purpose that's bigger than just me. They tried to destroy me, and instead, they pushed me into becoming something more." Alexei kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "You were always something more. You just needed the chance to see it." 2 weeks later, the FBI quietly closed their investigation into Alexei Volkov, citing insufficient evidence. Morrison and Chen disappeared from Sarah's life as suddenly as they'd appeared. The school board, embarrassed by the publicity around Sarah's successful literacy center, sent a letter offering her old position back. Sarah declined politely. She had something better now, something she'd built with her own hands, something that couldn't be taken away because of who she'd married. She had students who needed her, a mission that mattered, and a husband who'd stood beside her through everything. On their first anniversary, Alexei took Sarah back to the restaurant where he'd proposed. They sat at the same table, held hands across the white tablecloth, and Sarah thought about everything they'd survived in just 1 year. "I have something for you," Alexei said, pulling out a small box. "We said no gifts," Sarah protested, but she was already reaching for it. Inside was a key. "It's to the literacy center," Alexei explained. "I had it engraved. Look at the back." Sarah turned it over. Inscribed in tiny letters, "For Sarah, who turns ashes into gardens." Her eyes filled with tears. "It's perfect." "You're perfect. You took everything they threw at you and made it into something beautiful. You never wavered, never broke, never stopped being exactly who you are." He squeezed her hand. "I was supposed to be the one protecting you. But you protected yourself. You're stronger than anyone I've ever known. I had you beside me. That made all the difference." They kissed across the table, and Sarah thought about that day in the dental office, about how scared she'd been, how helpless. About the tall stranger who'd appeared like an answer to a prayer. She'd needed saving that day. But somewhere along the way, in the midst of FBI investigations and lost jobs and new beginnings, she'd learned to save herself. She'd learned that she was strong enough to stand beside a dangerous man without losing herself. Strong enough to build something good in the midst of chaos. "What are you thinking about?" Alexei asked, watching her face. "That I'd do it all again. Every terrifying, difficult, impossible moment. Because they all led here. To you, to us, to this life we've built together." She smiled. "You saved me once, and then I saved myself. And now we save each other every single day." "Every single day," he agreed, raising his wine glass. "To us, to surviving, to building gardens from ashes. To love that's worth fighting for," Sarah added, touching her glass to his. They drank, and Sarah felt completely, perfectly content. She'd lost things, her old job, her simple life, her anonymity. But she'd gained so much more. A husband who would move heaven and earth for her. A purpose that mattered. The knowledge that she was stronger than she'd ever imagined. The FBI had tried to break them. The school board had tried to shame her. Life had thrown everything it could at them. But they were still standing, still together, still building something beautiful. And that, Sarah thought as Alexei pulled her onto the dance floor, was the greatest victory of all. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just enduring, but transforming. Taking every terrible thing and using it as fuel to become more than they'd been before. The music swelled around them, and Sarah rested her head on Alexei's shoulder, feeling his heartbeat against her cheek. Whatever came next, and she had no doubt that more challenges would come, they would face it together. Partners, equals. Two people who'd found each other in the darkest moment and decided to build a life full of light. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you more," he whispered back. "Forever." And Sarah believed him, because in a world full of uncertainty and danger and unexpected crises, Alexei's love was the one constant she could always count on. The one truth that never wavered. They danced until the restaurant closed, holding each other close, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight was theirs, a celebration of everything they'd survived and everything they'd become. Together,